Hello y'all, Shaniqua is here. What is up? This is an update from the last video about my cousin Michelle, where we were having these premonitions of a tragic event or possibly a death. That's why the video in the last video is called Death Premonitions. Well, it wasn't a physical death, like an actual death, but I would still classify this as a death. In that video, I talk about, like I said, how we were having really bad feelings about my cousin Michelle. Usually most of the time, we don't know who the premonitions are about. We just know that something bad's going to happen, and we all try to figure out who it is, where it's coming from. But this time we knew exactly who it was coming from. And she was at a hospital called Desert Parkway, and me and my sister Kim were trying to get down there to go see her. And the day we went to go see her, we were sitting there for like a half an hour waiting, and they're like, "Oh, she's no longer here. She was released later, earlier this afternoon." And we're like, "Are you kidding me? Like, we've been waiting here for like a half an hour, and you now are telling us that she's no longer here, that she was released earlier today?" You know, that was earlier today, that day, not today. But, you know, that's what I said. I was like, "Are you serious? She's no longer here, and you're just now telling us this?" So we left, and we were panicking because we had no idea where Michelle went, where she was, what happened to her. She was released on her own, was nowhere near in her right state of mind to be released on her own, or be released, period. But since she had no insurance, I guess that was the reason why they booted her out of the hospital, because they weren't making their money, which is ridiculous, I guess. You know what I mean? Because my cousin Michelle suffers from schizophrenia, a high level, like severe schizophrenia, and nobody's willing to help her. Nobody's willing to take her in, hospital-wise, or anything, because for two reasons. One, she either ends up leaving on her own, or two, it's an insurance issue, and they're like, "Screw you. You're crazy, you need help? Well, too bad, we want money." And it's ridiculous. So, the day she was released from that hospital, Desert Parkway, we had no idea where she was. I think I talked about it in the previous video, that where she was later found on the opposite end of town, pushing a shopping cart with a rocking horse in it, trying to find her daughter Lexi, who lives on the East Coast. She thought Lexi was just right around the corner. She's pushing a shopping cart with a spring horse that you bounce on, And Teresa was trying to get her in the car. That's her mom, who was in this video. I'll show that clip later on. Teresa was trying to get her in the car, and she's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm with God, and I'm with Mary." Mary is her longtime best friend who got in some trouble and is in prison, women's prison, somewhere out here in Nevada, I think. So there was no way she could have been with Mary. And she was also saying that she had just came from her dad's house when her dad is dead. How could you come from your dad's house? You just saw your dad, and now you're with God and Mary? So she was in a full-on schizophrenic episode. Not to mention she was trying to take this spring horse to her daughter, where she thought was right around the corner when she's on the East Coast. So she was like in her own world. It was massive, like a really bad episode. And Teresa was trying to get her in the car, and she asked her, finally got her in the car, and was like, "Where do you want to go?" She's like, "I want to go to Ryan's." That's her new baby daddy of her daughter, Christora. While she was at Ryan, she had another even worse episode, and ended up in Sunrise Hospital. Sunrise Hospital is right across the street from the hospital she was just previously at. And it's actually a medical hospital, not a mental health hospital. But she checked herself into Sunrise, and they put her in the psychiatric ward of the hospital, which was BHH, Behavioral Health Holding. And the reason why she went to Sunrise, she pretty much ran all the way there, and we found out later that she was running there because God and Jesus were telling her to run. Run from Cradle of Filth. That's like her favorite all-time rock band. Run from Cradle of Filth. Run from the black hair. Run from the black nail polish. Run from the sex. Run, run, run. And so she's running and running and running and running and running, and eventually makes it from across town to Sunrise Hospital, and she goes into Sunrise Hospital flipping out. So they admit her into the psychiatric part of Sunrise Hospital. And when I found out she was there, I got called my Aunt Shirley because I hadn't heard an update in quite a while. So I called my Aunt Shirley, who lives in Oklahoma, and I was like, what is going on with Michelle? Do you know anything? And that's how I found out she was at Sunrise. So I called Sunrise to see if she was still there. She was. So I got my mother up because my mother has been wanting to see Michelle, and so I told her, I was like, Mom, get up. We got to go. Michelle's at Sunrise Hospital. She's been there for 2 days. Something happened. If you want to see her, let's get up and go. Visiting starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. So that was like, when I woke up, found out she was at Sunrise, it was like around 6 something in the morning. We were out of the door, like in like hour or so, and like made it to a Sunrise Hospital at 9:30. Visiting, like I said, started at 9, and walked through the hospital, found the place, and it's like completely locked down. You can't even go in. You have to hit this buzzer. You buzz this button thing, and talk to the people that are in there. And they said there was a crisis going on, a situation. We couldn't go back yet. We had to wait. So we waited. Then they came back out to get us. And my mom went back first. And we had to leave all of our stuff out in the hallway, the main hallway of the hospital. And my mom goes back there and just back there for like 15 minutes, because there's like 15-minute increments per person who's trying to visit. And when she's done, she comes out and is like this look of shock on my mom's face. And I'm like, what's wrong? What happened? And she's like, Michelle is so out of it. She's just out of it. Like, out of it. And I was like, well, maybe it's from medication they have her on or whatever. Like, I was trying to, like, you know, wasn't really, like, comprehending what she was trying to say, my mom, until I went back there myself. Oh, my God. Before you can even see the person you're trying to see, you have to be, like, batoned with this metal detector, like this big metal detector thing, like as if you're going into a club or the airport or whatever. And you have to stand like this, you know, and they go, you know, make sure you have no weapons on you or whatever. And there's no physical contact. No hugging, no handshake, no nothing. You can't even, like, nothing. You gotta sit in this chair in front of the nurse's station while they sit in a chair in front of you. So it's like here, and then here is the other person. And you have your hands on your lap. You know, no physical contact. So I'm sitting there trying to talk to her. And like I said, she was on no medication. When I demonstrate what I'm about to do, she was on no medication yet. They were going to start her on an antipsychotic. They had started her on an antipsychotic like not even 24 hours ago from when we started visiting. And so it wasn't a side effect from the medication. So, but anyway, this is what it was like. Take off my glasses. So, like, I'm trying to talk to her, right? And this is pretty much what she's doing, like, the whole entire time. It was just crazy. And like I said, there's no side effect from any type of medication she was on. Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. It was just really creepy when she was doing this. And I was like, when she was visiting, when my mom was visiting with her, she was trying to get her attention and kept saying her name. When it was my turn, I kept trying to say her name. And it was like she wasn't even registering that we were there. Like, she knew that we were there, but it wasn't, like, clicking, if that makes sense. Like, there would be, like, times where she would snap to and actually try to hold a conversation with you, but less than 30 seconds later, she would snap back to that reality of hers. It was creepy. And, oh my God. And then there was this one point in the conversation where she got really serious, like, really serious, and, like, got, like, really scared me. Because of how, like, how it went down. She was doing that eye roll thing, talking to whatever she was hearing or whatever, and then she went, they're always listening, they're always watching, they're always there, they're always listening, you can't trust nobody, they're always around you. And I'm like, who? She goes, they. I'm like, they who? They. They who, Michelle? Who are you talking? They. And then she went back into the eye roll thing. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I was like, so at that point, I was like, I can't do this no more. I can't. Like, I was like, okay, Michelle, I'll see you a little bit later. Okay, I'm gonna go now. You know, and I went to the nurse's station, and I was like, trying to ask them questions. It's like, what's going on with her? Like, what is happening? Because I have never seen it to this severity, and I was in complete shock. Like, I was not mentally, emotionally prepared for how bad that I was going to see it. And I'm going to tell you, like, no. I could not take it. I couldn't take it. So I was trying to ask the nurses, like, what is going on? They had no answers for me. They were asking me questions. I had the answers for them, but they didn't have the answers that I was asking for me. And so we left eventually. We left, and I was in shock. I was crying. I was like, I can't believe how bad it is. Like, where is Michelle? Like, where is that girl that I remember? You know? Because she's a shell of who she is, or who she was. To me, it's the personality that makes up a person. You know, how they are. Not just the physical outside. You know? The personality. Like, what makes you, you? And that was gone. What made her, her, and the person we knew and loved was no longer there. Period. It was insane. So we're leaving the hospital, I'm crying, I'm freaking out, like, calling everybody in the family, like, oh my God, you won't believe this. And I was like, you won't understand unless you see it with your own eyes. Like, I can try to explain it the best I can, but you guys will not understand unless you see it. And Kim, my sister Kim, wanted to see Michelle. And I told her, I was like, Kim, I don't think you're prepared for this. Like, I wasn't prepared. And, it's going to shock the hell out of you. She still wanted to go. But she didn't stay at the hospital again. From what I heard from the nurses is that she was supposed to stay at Sunrise until a bed became available at the state hospital, which was called Ross and Neal. She was supposed to stay there. Before Kim could go see her, her mother, Teresa, called or talked to Michelle at the hospital on the phone. And Michelle was like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. I'm gone. I gotta go. And either that night or the very next day early in the morning, she left the hospital. She AMA'd against medical advice and was out there roaming the streets. We had no idea where she was. No idea. And then we found out, like a week or so later, that she's back in another hospital. And she left that one too. And last we heard, this was like, we heard this yesterday from my Aunt Teresa, which I'll show you her video in a second. She said that last she heard about her daughter was that she left this other hospital like a few days ago and went to a friend's house that her and Teresa know and was just, wah, wah, screaming bloody murder like she was being killed out on their porch. The dude comes out with a gun, like, who in the fuck is messing with you? Like, you know, ready to shoot somebody. And he's like, sees Michelle, they're screaming, he's like, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong? She looks at him and goes, nothing. Really? Nothing? After you're screaming your ass off? And then she takes off and goes somewhere. Like, no, they let her in the house, she starts rummaging through all their stuff, so they ask her to leave. So she leaves, and we haven't seen her since. Now, that's everything that I know. And I'm going to show you her mother's video, my Aunt Teresa's video. I filmed a brief video with her, how she feels about all this, what she has to say. Some of that. So what's going on with Michelle?
Well, since she got out of jail,
Yeah.
she went home. She had a nervous breakdown, asked me to take her to counseling. I took her there. She was, mind you, only out one day. They legal 2000'd her and kept her in, I think, Mountain View Hospital, transferred her to Desert Parkway, released her without telling me. She was lost. They gave her a bus ticket. She had no phone, no way to get a hold of me. She got one text to me with the person when I got back to them. She was nowhere around there again. And I looked for her all night. I worried. I finally found her. She was out of her mind. And somehow she, I said, where do you want to go, And she says, to Ryan's. So I dropped her off at Ryan's. I guess that night she had an episode, and she called me from Sunrise Hospital and told her that Jesus told her to run away from cradle of filth, sex, black nail polish, and everything. And she was in Sunrise, so I was under the impression that Sunrise was going to release her to another facility and that they were going to notify me. Because she's an adult, they say they don't have to do that. And I get reports from friends that she shows up screaming, hysterical, just out of her mind, and yet she still keeps getting released from the hospital. And I'm scared for her life. And I'm going through hell.
Is it because of insurance that she's being released, or is she just AMA?
I am a mother, but still, because she's an adult, I get no information.
So the last thing we heard, she showed up, after being at this other hospital again, she showed up at your friend's house?
One of her friends, a mutual friend,
And
screaming hysterically.
out on the porch?
Yep.
And then what happened when they went to the porch?
She said, oh, there's nothing wrong.
She said there's nothing wrong?
Yeah.
She's out there screaming hysterically, and then he
Yeah.
says nothing wrong.
And he didn't want to put her in the street, so he came in, let her come in, get a jacket, a few things, and she started rifling through his roommate's stuff and things, and he had to tell her to leave. And I have no idea what happened to her since then. And it's just sad that there's no resources for somebody like her. When we get her in a treatment program that will treat her mental illness as well as her alcohol and addiction and her self-esteem issues, they lose their funding. And there's just no money to help people like this. And it's sad because there should be.
Right. What is she diagnosed with?
I've never seen the diagnosis.
What have you heard?
Schizophrenia.
Everything you've tried to done, it's not working, right?
Yeah, it seems like the hospitals or the insurance or the system is not working together with the families because they don't tell us anything and she's an adult, or maybe they do that because we can't take her in because we're not qualified. We don't know how to help her.
Right. What do you hope for the outcome of Michelle? Like, what do you hope that?
Well, of course, I hope my daughter gets healthy, and if that's not a possibility, then there's a safe place somewhere for her where she could get healthy. I think that our politicians should pull some of the tax money from medical marijuana. Do something to help the mentally ill. Something.
Especially something as bad as her case.
Yeah, and especially ones with children.
Right. She has 2 kids. That's exactly right. Is there anything else do you want to say or anything?
Not right now.
I know this is really hard for you. I'm sorry.
Just so.
I'm sorry. I know this is really hard for you.
Yeah, I know it's hard on her baby.
It's being hard on everybody because But when this really first started kicking in high gear, like I told you, like everybody in the family sensed it. And what the last video was about is that we were, I don't want to say it, but I know what you know what I'm referring to. You know, because I just can't think of that being the outcome, but it's like that's what it's going to lead to, you know?
Well, of course. You know, and when she's on the streets and she's being vulnerable and, you know, pimps are trying to pick her up or something, and I go to the police and they tell us, what, babe?
Unless somebody's dying, they're not doing anything.
Unless somebody's dying, they're not doing anything.
That's what the police have said?
It's fucked up.
The part, her mom talking about it, my Aunt Teresa, it was very hard on her. She was willing to do it. She wanted to do it. I asked her about it. She was very gung-ho about doing it. But when it came to actually filming, it was just really rough on her. And, you know, so, in a nutshell, when we had these premonitions, a lot of people in the family had these premonitions about Michelle. We thought that it was about her actual death. She is not actually dead yet. You know, this type of stuff keeps happening. You know, eventually she's going to be found dead. You know, there's no other alternative. You know, if she can't get the help or is refusing help or whatever, you know, she's going to die. But to me, the girl that we all knew, loved, and cared about, and I was so much best friends with and everything, it's no longer there. So to me, it's kind of like she died because, you know, like, an emotional, you know, whatever you are, like inside that type of thing, death. You know what I mean? Because she may be alive physically, but she's not alive inside anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? Because, like I said, like, who we knew and who we loved is no longer there. It's a shell. An empty shell of something that looks like Michelle, sounds like Michelle, but it's not Michelle. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh my God. Whew. I can't believe I made it through this video without breaking down. Yeah, I'm proud of myself. Okay. Whew. I'm getting very, like, emotionally, physically, like, weak right now, so it's draining me talking about this. So peace out, y'all. Love y'all. Hugs and kisses. Stay tuned for more videos. I'll be back as soon as I possibly can. Hopefully with good news. May not be. Since I've been doing updates on my life and a lot of my videos lately, I'm probably going to do something different. Do a dance video or a funny skit video or something random, whatever, just to break from this craziness. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm going to do an off-the-wall video on my next video that it's off all this stuff going on in my life, because that's what my last couple of videos for a while have been about. So stay tuned for a random video that is nothing to do about this, nothing to do about my life, or anything like that, just something, just more Shaniqua. You get what I'm saying? So peace out, y'all. Love y'all. Hugs and kisses. Stay tuned for my videos. I'll be back as soon as I possibly can.